Spirited Smoke, episode 2. I want to start off by saying that cigars and spirits are the black magic of the culinary world.
Ooh.
Wow.
I've been holding on to that for so long.
It's hard.
Yeah, you just let that one out. You feel a lot better now.
Dude.
Hold on here.
Write that down.
Right.
Yeah, let me tweet
Quote
that.
Quote 2020. Brian is saying.
So, and that's what Spirited Smoke is about. It's bringing cigars and spirits into the culinary world, which is what we're doing. We're creating a craft culture in something that was looked at differently in the past. And I'll just stop right there. This episode is about pairing cigars. And we're going to have other episodes about pairing cigars. But this episode in particular is about pairing wine and cigars. And so what I'd like to do is kind of open the discussion to, does anyone pair wine and cigars? What is your experience? Let's go around the table. Do you have any experience with pairing wine and cigars?
I'd say that I think one of the best pairings on the planet Earth is doing a steak and then following it up with a full-bodied red wine and a rich Maduro. I think that's one of the best combinations you can have.
Have you,
Ethiopian coffee.
in your 30 years of smoking, have you met some true cigar aficionados that pair with wine?
Very few, actually. Most of them are really more liquor or stuff like that. And some, to a lesser extent, some beers. When you're talking about a heavy hop beer and stuff like that, somebody might like a spicy cigar with that. But for the most part, wines, because the flavors are more delicate, cigars sometimes can override that flavor.
Sure.
So, in pairing the cigar, you have to look at the boldness or the brightness of the cigar versus the boldness or the brightness of the wine or coffee or things like that. So,
Yeah, I mean, I've had a little bit of experience pairing wines with cigars. I don't know nearly as much about wine as I do with cigars, but my general rule of thumb is if I'm drinking something of more of a heavy body red wine, I like to go somewhat more medium to full body, something with a little bit of depth and darkness to kind of accompany the richness and robustness of like a dark red wine. But if I'm smoking something more mild, I'll definitely lean towards more of a white wine, something that's a little bit sweeter, not as intense, and won't overpower the cigar.
But it sounds like going around the table so far, we're halfway around the table, that wine and cigars aren't a typical pairing.
They're not.
no, I mean, mostly, in the store, I talk to people about pairings and stuff like that. It's usually liquor or beers. If somebody's going to have, a heavy red wine, then you talk about a heavier cigar. The basic rule of thumb is like for like. If you have a light wine or spirit or something like that, it's a lighter cigar. So you don't want the cigar to overpower whatever you're drinking. So,
but even then, the comparison between a cigar and whiskey is different than that to a wine.
Because of the tannins.
Exactly.
And stuff like that,
So not only the taste, the texture, the feel of the wine in the mouth, almost presents a different experience than you would experience from a beer like a porter or something like a whiskey or a scotch.
I got these in from the Dominican Republic from Hochi Blanco at Tabacalera Palma. And ironically, we're doing something on pairing with wine. And these were made for some like French royalty that makes wine or has something to do with the wine industry. So, I mean, they're extremely unique looking, I would say.
Those are some of the most unusual bands I've ever seen. Those are really beautiful, actually.
Yeah, so I'm trying to get these for the club. I just got samples in, and we'll see how it goes.
Is that in Latin?
I
The writing?
believe French.
Oh, French.
Yeah, French. It's, they're
Latin.
from French.
Yeah, whatever. Foreign
French,
languages.
Latin, same shit.
So, shout out to Hochi Blanco.
Hey, welcome guys.
Hey,
How you
Izzy.
doing? Nice to see y'all again. Yeah.
We come bearing gifts.
Oh, thank you so much.
Farm roll.
Farm roll. Nice.
We're here today with Izzy of Cigars on Waterford, and if you guys have been following anything I do, you know that Izzy has been a huge inspiration in my cigar journey, so thank you for that.
Thank you.
It's my pleasure, and we wanted to know if we could rummage through your humidor here.
Of course, it's yours.
We're going hunting.
Nice.
Anything good over there?
A couple of cool things, yeah. These offers are cool.
Coffee. Oh, dude.
What?
Dude. Izzy,
Yeah.
is this what I think this is?
Oh yeah. Original
Oh,
release from
no way.
101 Daruma from Matt Booth.
How do you even have these?
I've had them for a while. It's original release, but I can't tell you what year it was.
This is like my favorite cigar. It's 2012, by the way.
2012. Wow.
This is my favorite cigar.
Holy shit.
one of mine too.
You want to know something? It just hit me that the first time I smoked a Lancero was this cigar, and it was at your shop in South Florida. I got this from you originally.
Wow.
That's
This is full circle, baby.
it's almost 8 years ago now.
Wow.
Holy shit, dude! This is my favorite cigar. Like, we gotta call Matt. I hope he's available, man.
I remember the first time that you gave me one of these, I was just blown away by how good it was. Like a painfully good experience.
Let's see if he answers. He's answering. Hey, dude.
How's it going?
Thank you for answering the call, by the way. I'm sorry to just call you out of the blue, but you got to see this. I'm at Cigars on. I'm just so excited. I can't. I'm at Cigars on Waterford. You remember Izzy?
Yeah, man.
Wait.
What's up, Matt?
What's up, Izzy?
All right, how you doing?
How's it going?
Hanging in there, buddy.
So this is like an amazing moment for me. Look at this.
Wow, man. Endangered species, man.
I mean, I can't think of a better term for
Like
it.
finding a white tiger in nature.
So, do me a favor. Can you tell us a little bit?
Natural rest.
Can you tell us a little bit about the cigar and, like, I don't know, what it took to make it, or is there anything in particular about the cigar? Because it's probably my favorite cigar ever, which means it's also my favorite Room 101 Matt Booth cigar.
Well, I'm honored, man. That actually was one of my favorites. And also, I believe I can confidently say one of the favorites of our devout followers of Room 101 at the time. The Lancero format in that blend was surely where blend, formula, and size met up in perfect harmony, even within that series, man.
Yeah.
Gorgeous cigar. We first released that in 2012.
Okay.
That was when we initially released the series.
And you made this in Honduras, right?
That's correct, in Don Lee.
Okay.
Wrappers Ecuador Habano, binder is Brazilian, and the fillers are Honduran and Dominican.
Wow. Dude, I can't even tell you, like, I'm like almost like a little stirred up here because it's crazy. I'm remembering all this as we go, that the first time I smoked a Lancero was this cigar. And
Oh, wow.
and I got it at Izzy's old shop in like 2012 or 13 in
Nice,
South
man.
Florida. Like, and I was telling people like Izzy taught me a lot about cigars, and like I'm just floored that I found this here, bro. I'm like stupid, like almost emotional right now. Thank you for taking the
So it
call.
goes, man.
I don't want to take up any more of your time, and I appreciate
My
you.
pleasure, man.
Matt Booth from Room 101 Cigars, such a gentleman as always. Thank you for taking the call, bro.
Of course, man. Anytime.
Peace. Oh wait,
Take care.
we gotta work. You know, we gotta work on one of these. We gotta work on a remake. That's a dream of mine. I'm just throwing it out there. We'll talk about
It's
it.
a dream of mine, too.
Okay.
So, touche.
All right. We'll talk.
Let's do it.
All right. Peace.
All right, my man.
All right. Take care.
Wow.
Wow, Wow.
I'm glad you found
I need
Cigar that
these,
you like
Izzy.
so
I
much.
need these. Can we make a deal?
Absolutely.
Holy shit.
Wow.
We're gonna smoke them right now, right?
No, we're not.
Have them down there, you know, for people that are looking for gems. That's why I don't have them on the shelf.
Okay,
They
well,
would've been,
Cigars
they would've
on
been gone a long time
Cigars
ago.
on
the
Waterford,
shelf.
man. You got to come in here. All right, so we're gonna work it out. But here, let me at least leave you one. I should be so kind to leave you one of these cigars.
One of your cigars.
I won't sell them though. I will smoke them.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
No, dude. Thank you, Izzy, man. You've been such a big inspiration and a big part of my cigar
Thank
journey.
you, man. That means a lot. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thanks for the cigar.
Thank you.
That's such a beautiful
Isn't
wrapper
it?
on the cigar. Yeah. Yeah, I had them down there for people looking for gems. It's one of my favorite
I
cigars
bet you
of
most
all
people
time,
don't
too.
even know what it is.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
But if I had them on the shelf, they would have been gone a long time ago.
Jesus Christ! What the with these drivers?
What's going on?
One of my favorite things, since we're talking about pairing cigars with stuff, it's really easy to do at home that my wife Ophelia makes for me sometimes, is toasted almonds, toasted hazelnuts, toasted pecans. I mean, all of the nut variety are really good when you toast them, and so many people don't toast them. And I've had them sitting in a bowl like this where people come over and they start eating them. They're like, wow, that's the best almond I've ever had, and it's just because of a simple toast. So I'm gonna let Ophelia show you guys how to do that.
Toasting is as easy as it can be. It's literally just opening up whatever nut you're working with, whether it's a hazelnut, pecan, almond, tossing them into your favorite pan and just letting them sort of brown up. You want to kind of mix a little bit, make sure they get even browning. You don't need to add oil, you don't need to add salt, nothing else, just your pan and whatever nut you're working with, just kind of tossed around and moved around. And that's it.
And it pairs so well with cigars. I mean, I think a lot of people talk about like a roasted nut flavor. You could add
Yeah.
salt to that too. A roasted nut flavor, and I mean that's what they're talking about. So something to smoke with a nice Maduro, a Padron, or something like that. Any cigar that you taste roasted nuts in. Do you have any experience with wine and cigars?
I do, yeah. So my usual go-to, like with everyone else, is a nice sort of a rich red, like a Chianti or a Cabernet. I do play around with a lot of Pinot Noirs too, though. And I find that the lightness of a Pinot Noir, that like crispness, or a lot of times you'll have brighter, sort of fruitier notes in a Pinot Noir, they tend to sort of extend or brighten up the
Accentuate?
Accentuate.
Yeah.
Accentuate.
Extenuate. Yeah.
Accentuate.
Accentuate. I've had too much wine already. Tends to accentuate the accent, the flavors of the cigar very well. I will say too, I think that a lot of times the reason why reds are paired well or most with cigars is that sort of the tannins kind of envelop your mouth, and when you get that tingliness of the tannins in the mouth, it kind of, I don't know, it preps the palate for the cigar really well. And I think that's why traditionally when people do pair wine with cigars, that's why they go for the reds, the deeper, bolder sort of reds.
So the one thing that comes to mind when I talk about wine and cigars is two legends in our industry, Pete Johnson of Tatuaje and John Hubert of Crown Heads, are huge wine guys. They geek out on wine lists. They've always been into wine, from what I understand from watching interviews and stuff like that. And so, and actually, Pete Johnson had or has his own wine or something like that.
I know he was
that.
involved in one. Yeah. I don't know if he still is.
Yeah. So, I mean, to me, those are two guys that have been really big in pushing the culture of cigars. So, you know, if they're into wine with cigars,
Can't be all that bad.
right. Okay guys, we are here today at Digress Wine in Orlando with Mr. Rob Chase, who is a wine professional. We're here surrounded by bottles that range anywhere from $30 to what's your highest?
Sky's the limit here, a couple grand, you know.
Nice. I like that.
Sure.
So I thought it would be really cool to bring in last month's box, which was a really popular box. And we had 3 very different cigars that kind of can speak for the whole range of cigars in a sense. So if I was gonna pick any of the months to do this, it would be this month, because we have basically your Connecticut Shade, Roll the Davidoff, back-to-back cigar. Shout out to those guys. It is your standard or more classic Connecticut Shade cigar, lighter cigar. Some people call it a morning cigar. I think it just depends on the blend. Then we have the Montenegro Red, which is a more what I would describe as like an afternoon or a daily smoker. It's right up the middle. It's got some spice, some woods, but it's not quite over the top. Which brings me to the last but not least, the Supreme Leaf by Aganorsa, which was a powerhouse. This is your full-bodied cigar. Spicy, dark, you know, yeah, very bold. So I think we got, you know, a decent representation of the sort of the rainbow of.
And I love the morning designation, because, you know, we love to talk about breakfast wines and
Nice.
you know, something for lunch and
Yeah.
bruisers for the end of the day if
That's-
you feel so inclined.
Yes, yes.
So, all right, there's
I like that.
There's some corollaries here.
So what I was hoping was that you could maybe indulge us in a pour of what you would pair with each of these cigars. Is that something you can
absolutely. Let's
do?
get
Okay,
started.
great, thank you.
You know, this was a fun project to kind of dig into a little bit once we started chatting, and I wanted to start with a little Riesling.
Okay,
So
I've heard of Riesling.
So most commonly, you know, you're gonna find this grown in Germany, but Austria, France. I mean, domestically, it's here as well. You know, a huge production in Washington State, for example. Now, this producer in particular, Schloss Vorratz, they've been around since 1211, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow.
1209. So these guys have been here forever.
1211. Well, let's
Good to go.
Can you teach us a little bit about nosing and sort of?
So yeah, so really what we're doing right
Tasting
now is this is just helping to release some of the esters, which are, you know, all the compounds
the esters.
that carries, you know, everything that you
in
might be
the right
smelling. You
place.
know, when
Brian
people
loves
say,
that.
I love that word. I'm big. We're really discovering what esters really are.
yeah. So and really, you know, when somebody says I smell peach, you know, I smell pear, pineapple, whatever. I mean, it's actually the same chemical compound that you'll find in those fruits.
Right.
So through fermentation, you do create the same sort of actual compounds. And that's why it's so wild with some of these wines. I mean, to be like, it's, you know, whatever it is, I smell blood, you know, earth. I mean, just like, and so it's fascinating on its own. So with this wine, I mean, when you're swirling here, you're just helping to release a little bit of that.
Love
You don't have
that.
to get aggressive with it, but just enough to kind of agitate it.
I mean, it smells delicious. It's
Yeah,
very
right.
refreshing. Yeah.
And that's it.
I'm like immediately like, and tell me if I'm wrong or if you think I'm wrong. Peaches, and I could see honey, you know, honeysuckle, like very springtime kind of.
Absolutely. There's no wrong answer. You know, and that's it. It's also
That means I was
subjective
wrong.
too. That is not means wrong. No, because it is. I mean, that's why I said, you know, peach is the first thing I pull out of this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
Absolutely.
And really, but it is subjective, and I'm sure, you know, like a lot of people will feel the same way with cigars. I mean, we all have our own palates.
Mm-hmm.
We all interpret,
Definitely.
taste differently, smells differently,
Mm-hmm.
and that's based on, you know, our whole life of
Memory,
developing
yeah.
these memories. So, this one has a lot of just tropical, fresh
Yeah.
Yes.
fruit. I mean, it's
I smell
perfect
that.
summertime Florida kind of wine.
I gotta try it.
Wow. Bright.
Mm-hmm.
Super bright. Fruity.
Wow, man. I mean, this could really take pairing cigars to the next level, because I can't see myself. This is almost like this might be exactly what I'm looking for, because this is almost like the spirits that I indulge in with cigars typically, except the alcohol content is a lot lower, so I can sip. I could do the first third of the cigar with this. I can change over to something else, And it's not like when I do that with cognac or rum where I'm going to be completely, you know, staggering.
Absolutely, absolutely. Definitely more of a daytime drinker. And this is a little lower alcohol. And I mean, that's a great way if you're looking to buy a Riesling and you want to try to pair something. You know, if you don't have any thought to, first of all, like these guys have a great little graph in the back. So this will show you, it has a sweetness level. So it goes from dry to sweet, and they'll designate it there. But another little trick is just look at the alcohol level. This is about 9.5%.
Okay.
So the higher the alcohol, less residual sugar.
Okay.
So when you see that that lower alcohol, I mean, you get to drink more.
I guess we should move on to one of my favorite daily smokers, which is the Montenegro Red in Corona. A great little 30-minute smoke, 40-minute smoke. And this is going to give us, let's look at the tasting notes here. We're getting some cinnamon. We're getting some bread notes. We're getting some sweet black teas.
Vanilla.
Spice, leather, cocoa. In the middle though, nothing overpowering about that cigar.
That being said, got a little Spanish guy here.
Wow, that looks cool.
This is Tempranillo. And these guys, and actually I did consult with my friend Emma, who works for the importer here, just to make sure I gave it the proper pronunciation. Maybe you pumped them, you know, and a little bit to rinse with, just to get some of that sugar out of your glass.
Okay.
So just kind of swirl that around, and I didn't think to bring a bucket back here, so you
all good.
have to drink it. I'm sorry.
Wow, is that good?
Holy cow, that is amazing.
It's like cherry juice.
Okay, this is not the wine that we've all had before. Like, this is not standard stuff. This is what I've been looking for in my wine experiences and have been disappointed that I didn't find. So that brings us to the Aganorsa Supreme Leaf full body of the bunch. This was a really cool limited cigar that I was fortunate enough to have been able to help with its inception, and definitely proud of this. They made, we don't know the exact number, I believe it's 10,000, and they were just gone. And now everyone's trying to get them again, so they're trying to reproduce it in a Toro size next. But it's just such a full body powerhouse. What do you do? And this is, by the way, this is what a lot of the American consumer in
Bigger,
cigars
better,
want.
right?
Yeah.
Same with wine too. I mean,
really?
We've got a variety of things like this, and lighter and more elegant, but I sell a crazy amount of just beastly wine.
Huh.
Wow. So it's not just cigars.
It's not. You know, I think people equate punishment, you know, in their palate to quality in a lot of ways. So,
okay.
You know, and there are a couple of different ways that you can go. And I know a lot of times it's port, Amarone, those kind of things. But what I found here that I thought would be great is a Petite Syrah. The grape itself, you know, a lot of people think it is Syrah, or, you know, just a variant of that, and it does have some roots there. It's Syrah is one of the parent grapes, and it was developed back in I think the 1800s in France. But this, it's also known as Durif, not as commonly anymore, but it's a smaller grape. So when you get those smaller grapes, you get more skin, obviously, less flesh on the inside. So all this tannin, all of the color from your
smell the tannin, like the wood and the tannin. Even
yes,
when
definitely.
Well, this to me is more traditional red. When I normally get handed a wine, this particular wine smells a lot richer, and I feel like it's more complex. I can get more out of this, but this is in that range of typical when someone's having a cab with a steak. Like, when I taste it, I'm like, oh yeah, that's red wine. Let's try it.
I smell blackberry jam.
Yes,
Just
jammy,
blackberry
yes,
jam.
absolutely.
Not my favorite of the bunch by far, and I can clearly see how this would go with this. It is a full body. It's got a lot of oak and wood, and there's dark berries. They're not so refreshing. And I think that's the tannin, the dryness of it. Kind of, I like that in a white. I like drier in a white, but in the red, it kind of almost makes me feel like I need to keep drinking.
It's stringent. And it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard for me too, and that's why I tend to gravitate myself towards whites and lighter reds, and not to speak poorly of these wines. They're wonderful. Mettler is a great family. They've been doing this for over 100 years there.
Wow.
But yeah, I agree. It can be fatiguing on the palate, and
Like a full-bodied cigar.
right. And
Everything you're telling me so far, all the terms that you're using as far as like, not necessarily the terms, but what you mean by
How
them.
you describe them.
Yeah, this is all very cigar related to me. It's very like a cousin of kind of thing. And I think that there are a lot of cigar people that would really get into wine, and I think vice versa, that there's a lot of wine people that could really dive into cigars. So Rob, one thing that I really love is I do enjoy champagne with cigars. It feels like I'm celebrating something, and I really enjoy that. Typically I'll have a glass of champagne to start it, and then I'll go into cognac, okay? What I want to know is, I just picked up a cigar that it's one of my favorite cigars of all time, and if I'm remembering it correctly, it's pretty delicate. It's, I would say, medium in body, and it's got just delicate flavors, man. I really don't, I would have to go look at my notes to remember exactly what it was, but I'm looking for a good sparkling wine or champagne that's not going to break the bank. Something that's also probably not that common, because I do like rare stuff. Do you have anything that you can recommend that we can pair with this cigar that we found?
I am so glad you asked. We are cut from the same cloth, my friend. I love anything sparkling.
Good.
So, we got here a solid bottle from Spain.
Wow.
So, Can Samoy. Now, these guys are playing around with a really ancient style of winemaking. So you'll notice this is a completely different enclosure here.
Yeah, how do you even open that?
So you got to kind of just pry this clip off and watch out for your eyes. Careful. Don't point it at your friends. But what it is it's a method ancestral. So with champagne, when you're making it, you put your still wine with a little bit of a little bit of sugar in there. You get your initial fermentation. That's why you see those the pupitre, those A-frame kind of things where they're slowly turning and riddling the bottles. They're getting all that yeast to fall to the bottom. Wow. And then eventually they'll pop that out, top it off with liqueur du tirage, which will designate like the level of sweetness, whether it's just a little tiny bit or a lot. And then they'll cork it. These guys, they're basically doing it old school. They put it in the bottle, it ferments, done.
Wow.
So, the great thing about it, this is a new project from a wonderful fellow who I've worked with for years on the distribution side. His name is Pepe Reventos. So
Pepe, I like that.
Pepe, yeah, he's guy's a rock star. So they're in Fernandez, in Spain. So it's just due west of Barcelona, and
so is Pepe makes the wine?
So Pepe does.
Okay.
And really, they're from Cava land, so this is where that all came from. And these guys, Reventos, the label, they've been around. That family has been producing wine there since 1497.
Oh my good lord!
So we're looking at over 500 years of
wow,
father to son. And it's one of those crazy stories. There's only a few wineries that you can really look at.
Wow.
That
how many generations is that roughly?
How many generations?
1500s?
It's 1400s.
1400s. Oh my god.
That's a great question.
Wow. It's
Put
probably in the
spot.
20s or something.
It's
No,
20
it's
something.
yeah,
It's gotta be,
it's
right?
probably in the 20s. Like, that is unbelievable. I think in the cigar world, like, we think like, oh, this guy's third generation. It's like, wow, it's third generation.
It's impressive, right?
Yeah, 20 something generations.
To maintain something like that is unbelievable. They created the first sparkling wine in Spain.
Oh wow.
They created the Cava designation as far as the DO there that defines the rules and how you can make Cava.
Wow.
And what then they decided it wasn't good enough. They broke away from it and they created a new designation called Conca del Renoya, and it's a little more stringent, organic, biodynamic, all that kind of stuff. Incredible quality.
So does that mean everything that comes from that region is already organic, biodynamic, or is it
So
just
not
certain
with
ones?
Cava specifically. With Reventos, yes.
Oh.
And if you were to apply for that new designation, then yes, you would need to be organic, biodynamic. Everything would have to be estate produced, only indigenous grapes, no Chardonnay or Pinot Noir like a lot of people use.
Right.
So this won't be over the top for me. So it won't take away from the.
Correct. This is a little bit different too. This is a new project that he did with an old childhood buddy of his, Colcan Samoy. So it's not under the Reventos label. And this is a little bit more going back to that natural wine kind of thing. So it's a little bit funky.
Okay, I like
a
that.
little more wild.
Yeah.
But it will definitely, it's got a delicacy to it, and it's got some finesse, and it's really, it's quite complimentary and versatile.
Okay, wonderful.
Great.
Well, Rob, thank you so much. Shout out to Digress Wine. Thank you, Rob, so much for your education that you've passed on to us today. And I see you becoming a recurring character in Spirited Smoke, so keep your phone on.
Anytime, my friends. Happy to be here.
All right, thank you guys. Cheers.
Cheers.
So one of the things that I learned today when we visited Digress Wines and spoke to Rob Chase was wines pair, not only do they pair extremely well with cigars, here's the benefits for me. One, I can sip the entire time and not be completely wasted at the end of a cigar. Two, the way I saw it, after trying different wines that Rob was pairing with different types of cigars, I could almost see having those in thirds, small pours in thirds, starting with a white, going into
Like
a medium red, and then into a full body, Cabernet kind of style wine. And I thought that was pretty awesome. The other thing that I want to say about wine and cigars were listening to him speak about wine. He's as passionate about wine as we are about cigars. It's sort of the same person.
Yeah.
Like it's sort of the same culture. Like I could see a ton of wine drinkers really getting into cigars and vice versa.
Well, and a lot of times, we sound somewhat pretentious when we talk about the notes of a cigar or something like that. It's the same with wines, and people go, oh, absurd. It's the same stuff that we do with this.
Yeah, actually, I had someone recently ask me, like, this may sound like a dumb question, but what's the difference in different cigars? Like, how do you taste different things? And I explained it to them as, think about wine. You have different regions where different wines are grown and they produce different flavors because of the climate and the soil it's grown in. And that's the same exact thing with cigars. You can have multiple leaves grown in various parts of the world, all blended together to produce one product.
Even the same type of leaf in one country or even one region.
Exactly,
of the country.
Yeah, the combinations are
Terroir,
endless.
it's so often discussed in wines, but it's such a big thing in cigars too.
Right.
So first of all, thank you to everyone who watched episode 1 of Spirited Smoke. We appreciate all the feedback, the comments, the shares, the likes. I mean, it was unbelievable, and that's why we're doing this again. It is a tremendous amount of work. Puts tremendous amount of pressure on our boy Johnny Taquitos over here. But we're doing it, man. I'm loving it, and I think it's great for the culture, and I appreciate every last one of you. So today, we ran into the best damn cigar I've ever had over at Izzy's shop. Shout out to Cigars on Waterford. Almost half a box of Daruma Mutante. Shout out to Matt Booth, Room 101. This is a 2012. I don't think it was a limited edition cigar, but it certainly didn't stick around long. And then we went over to Digress Wine and met Rob and learned about pairing wine with cigars. And I felt like it was only right to get a champagne to pair with this one. And so we got a sparkling wine called Can Sumoy. You guys got all the info on that. And we're going to figure out how to open this thing. I believe I've opened things similar to this, so I just went right to a pair of pliers. And hopefully, right there. Look at that. You got to manhandle these things, man.
That's how they do it in fine dining establishments.
And so one of the things that I learned at the wine place, or that we learned at the wine place, was that, like, the guy who made this, he's like, we get crazy about, like, oh, this guy's a third generation. The legacy, the tradition. This guy's like the 22nd generation of this father to son vineyard. This is a natural sparkling wine.
Crap.
Natural means that they're not using any pesticides, additives. Sometimes they're even just aged in steel instead of wood.
I don't even know if cigars were around 22 generations ago. Honestly,
It was the 1400s, so they were in existence in the Caribbean, and one of
The Tainos?
yeah, and one of homeboy Christopher Columbus, one of his people brought cigars back, right?
Yep.
And he was arrested for smoking it, thrown in jail. They thought it was witchcraft. He was actually in jail for like a year or two until maybe Chris Columbus came back and pardoned him. I'm not sure. So
I don't think it was until the 1600s though that they had the current cigar makeup of binder, filler, wrapper formula. I think it was just like kind of like
leaves. Oh, it was huge from what I
Rolled up.
understand. Yeah. Here you go, young lady.
Yeah, I heard that Native Americans were smoking things the size of your forearm, just wrapped up in corn husks.
Yeah, Cheech and Chong style.
Thank you.
There you go. And I need this drink more than I've needed a drink in a long time, my friends. Viva la Spain.
Viva la España.
La España. So cultured. It's unbelievable. Oh wow. It's very drinkable. I'll start there. It's not overly sweet, but it's sweet. It's not overly dry, but it's dry.
So this is the one that when we told Rob at Digress Wine a little bit about the Daruma cigar that we would be smoking, this is what he recommended that we pair with it.
Yeah, so why do you recommend that?
Because I told him that the cigar that we were smoking was like a medium body with a lot of delicate flavors. Which would you say you've had this?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So and I think he just wanted to give us something that was sparkling, easy on the palate, and short on the finish, so that we could still taste a lot of the cigar.
It's very short on the finish, but not in a bad way. It's like I feel like champagne sometimes, especially if it's a dry. Champagne leaves kind of a drying, gritty taste on your tongue. Yes, exactly.
And this
None of that
doesn't
on
have that acidity, which is nice.
Thank you very much.
You know what I don't have?
Is a cutter.
A cutter. But I want to show you guys something. Check this out. One of the cool things about a pigtail foot, and part of the reason why it's my favorite, is now this is aged a while, but you can twist that off. You know what? So
Twisted.
we can twist, pull, and if it's not good enough, you just use a little bit of your teeth to get the rest of that off. Shout out to Eric Espinosa of Espinosa Cigars. He never uses a cutter whatsoever.
You bite off?
He is a man's man, I'll tell you.
Every time that I try to bite a cigar, like when we're smoking a cigar at the office, and you just bite yours perfectly, and I'm like, my whole thing is like
sharp front teeth.
Yeah, I guess my teeth are not as.
You got a good jaw? Good jaw? Everyone's got a good jaw?
This has that like clove and nutmeg, and I love this so much.
It gives me that CLE box flavor, that fresh cut cedar, but now it's like aged, and it's got a very Honduran thing going on for sure.
Which is quickly becoming one of my favorite flavor profiles.
Mine too.
And I mean, listen, I'm sure people would argue with me, but I think that Honduran tobacco is probably one of the closer ones to Cuban tobacco. It's similar in body. In other words, it's not completely overpowering, but you can still get great flavors out of it. And then it builds in the thirds, it really builds. So
I think sometimes you do get really mild Honduran tobacco, but if you want full-bodied Honduran tobacco, it's got that same richness that Cuban stuff does.
So, but can we talk about the smell on the shaft, on the body of the cigar?
On the shaft.
I know in my tasting notes I never write the shaft. I'm like, no, I'm not fingering the shaft. Sorry.
Well, it's definitely very mild.
But I get like
a slight like barnyard and leather, just a hint.
You don't
of it.
get like some sort of soapy floral.
It's like subtle.
It's like woody. It's soapy. Really subtle to you guys.
Yeah.
Okay, so here goes nothing.
I definitely get a lot of that floral stuff that you talk about on the foot, though.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Okay, here we go. You ready? It's all red. Holy shit. Oh.
This is one of the most complex cigars I've ever had in my entire life.
Yeah, this is my favorite cigar, man. This is it. So we're trying to get Matt Booth to remake this, but I'm, you know, listen, I think the guy's amazing at what he does. I just don't know if we can actually recreate this exact cigar. It's very special.
I think even if we were to, I think one of the beauties, I mean, I haven't had one in 2012, you know, it was new, but I think that I would have to imagine that it being aged is what adds so much to it, so we'd have to age it for a while if we want to do that.
I made a cigar. I remade a cigar.
But you actually just raised a really interesting question that I think we could talk about. Is it possible, is there any cigar brand that is able to keep a cigar completely consistent year to year with different crop harvests? I know, like, people try, and I think some people are more successful than others.
Because I don't think that it's just about the crop.
Sure.
You know, it's about how they're treating their tobacco, and people don't want to talk about that, so I won't go into my, you know, assumptions. Back to the subject at hand, how does this pair with this? To me, I think that this is better to pair with this particular cigar than a bourbon, scotch, or whiskey, or a hard spirit would have been.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you guys agree with that?
It's really, really nice with this.
Elegant.
And it's like, it just, you need something like, this is such a delicate cigar. There's so many delicate nuances in there. And that's what makes a cigar so amazing. And if you had anything that was going to burn your palate out, it just would not be, it wouldn't be a good cigar.
It would, and anything that would be too strong on the palate would take away from this.
Exactly.
So I think before anyone goes and gets confused about how to pair things, I think the easiest way to think about pairing, whether it's with wine, whiskey, or whatever, is, or club soda or water, is just think about things in harmony. You know, do these two things have any similarities? If they have some similarities, and think about it in a sense of the overall experience, not just, hey, this cigar has vanilla and that, you know, root beer has vanilla. Think about how it is on the palate. Like, is it going to be medium with a medium smoke? Is it going to be a white wine or a sparkling wine with a lighter smoke? Is it going to be a super heavy-duty Nicaraguan? Maybe you can go with a deeper, darker red, you know, a Cab Sav, which is what everyone that I know. I mean, before today, I mean, everyone that I know that's into wine is just all Cabernet Sauvignon. That's it.
But we learned that there's so much more you can do with wine. So many different nuances and so many things you can pick up just from all different types of wines.
That Riesling was
I know, and Riesling you never think of as something you'd pair with.
100%.
I immediately think super sweet when I hear Riesling.
They are sweet for the most part.
They are, and but they can definitely vary too. They're not all sweet. Some can be a little drier. But we paired it. Well, we on the Riesling.
Yeah.
You would.
Kanye West.
You would. But yeah, going back to that, you wouldn't think of Riesling as pairing with a cigar.
No. And I wouldn't, for the record though, I wouldn't want to drink more than one glass of it at a time.
But what's cool about wines is you're not at 40% alcohol volume. So you can have a glass of Riesling in the first third, and then you can go into something a little deeper. You can have different.
That's actually really brilliant.
It's a huge plus for me because I'm known for getting zonked while smoking.
Really? Are you? I hadn't noticed.
This is one of the best cigars I've ever smoked, and if you know anyone with one of these, please get your hands on it because it is such an amazing experience. And drink it with either this Kansumoy or a sparkling wine that is very clean on the palate.
Truly, it's like I feel like this is a cigar that is like painfully beautiful. It's like you like almost want to cry. It's so beautiful. And that sounds so dramatic. I know I would hate myself if I, were watching this and hadn't smoked a cigar before. But it's like when you just slowly retrohale the smoke on this one, you can taste so many different things. But like, I think I wonder, because I think we all agree that wine and cigars is an underrated pairing. And what your guy at the wine place you went to basically said that yes, wine and cigars pair very well. Why is it that liquor is, I think, definitely seen as the standard, especially whiskey, for pairing with cigars? Why is that? Does anybody have any speculation as to why that is?
That's a great question.
It's partially cultural, I think.
Yeah, I think it's...
I would be curious to see if maybe people in Europe or in France that are more prominent in wine prefer pairing wine with cigars rather than with whiskeys. Obviously in Scotland,
Well,
you
shall
might
we
get
go?
Let me ask you this.
Yeah, I'm down.
Have you tried
There's the
smoking
segue.
while drinking wine?
That's
I
what
have.
I'm doing now.
Yeah, well, you are. Yeah.
You are, yeah.
You have.
Yeah, I've enjoyed all the wine I've
Have
had
you done it
cigars.
with whiskey as well?
Yes.
Which would you say you still tend to stay on?
I mean, that's the thing though. I
Predominantly.
tend to stay with whiskey, but I think that wine is just as good of a.
But why
of a
don't
pairing.
you? If it were as good, if not better, why would you not stay
Tell
with
us,
the wine?
Clark. Tell us.
That's a great question. I feel like I'm just coming up blank.
I think it could be
Well, I
It's
think
cultural,
the bottom,
you know?
bottom
Could
line
be,
is
but when you try
Who
something,
you're drinking with, and
you want to drink what you enjoy. You want to smoke what you enjoy. So if that's what you enjoy, by all means, continue doing it.
to be fair, there are several occasions where we've all split
That is
several
true.
bottles of wine over cigars.
and again, it could just be the lack of understanding
Sure.
or appreciation that wine could be as good a pairing as whiskey or bourbon.
Yeah.
I kind of wonder if it doesn't come from like a place of like sexism almost. It's like I think for a long time cigars was seen as being like exclusively male activity, and I think that for a lot of people until recently, whiskey was seen as being like a man's activity. So I wonder if that's why they're seen as being so mutually compatible.
I think
No, I think there's something to
definitely
that.
Something to that.
Yeah.
I definitely believe that, 100%. I think that
Especially
there.
white wine. You don't associate like a manly
Honestly, I'd
man
rather
drinking
pair a white wine than a
wine.
red wine
Yeah.
with cigars. Yeah, because you know what the thing about the white wine is it's non-offensive and
Lighter
it has
on the
almost
palate.
almost nothing to do with the cigar. So I can sip that as a refresher in between a cigar that might be zapping my palate.
Well, I don't know. My daughter-in-law likes ice wine with the cigar, which is very sweet and cold. So she really likes that. She likes the sweetness with a milder cigar.
Okay. Interesting.
And I will say that you two have really introduced me to drinking champagne with cigars, and I think that's a fantastic pairing, and it makes me want to do it all the time.
One of my favorites. I mean, I
Never
can't
done
do
it.
it all night, but I can do a glass or two before I go into my cognac.
And I can also say too that I think a lot of us even here at this table, we do drink sparkling water or club soda with cigars.
Yeah.
And if you're having a sparkling wine or a champagne, you're sort of getting that same effervescence in your
Right.
mouth.
Yeah.
And
It cleans
you're
the
getting
palate.
alcohol.
Yeah, that's
Crisp.
It does clean the palate a
with
bit.
a lime or a lemon or something. like that.
Yeah. So I think for me, what I believe, the reason why a lot of people don't pair wines with cigars is the same reason they don't even attempt to drink wine in the first place, is because they're intimidated by how much knowledge. It's just like a guy or a girl trying to get into cigars. Where do you even
Right.
begin?
Yeah.
It's so.
How do you pick? How do you, where do you start?
Right.
Yeah,
What do
that's
you
a lot of
like?
it.
Yeah, and
It's not
I'm-
exactly cheap either.
I'm someone that
Right.
knows a lot about cigars, and to me, wine is way more intimidating. There's so much
hell yeah.
more.
Yeah.
Oh,
We have
yeah.
what, 3, 4, 5 countries?
Yeah.
They have
The whole
dozens.
world,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, it's pretty incredible. So, I just want to say to close out this episode that I think, for me in particular, if I'm smoking during the day and I want to drink, I'm going to reach for a wine next time versus a beer or a scotch or something like that, because I think it was light and refreshing. I think there were some similarities, and I also love the idea of having each third of the cigar with something that's
I do
not
like
going to get
that.
me
That's a good
hammered
idea.
and also has other nuances.
Yeah.
Well, it's experimentation too.
Yes.
So I mean, give it a shot.
And to all the people that are into wine and really understand wine, I urge you to try a cigar and figure out where that cigar came from, what makes it unique, and what flavor notes to look for. I think you will enjoy the cigar smoking experience if you enjoy looking for notes in the wine.
And post it on Spirited Smoke.
Hey, there you go.
And post your pairings.
Yeah,
Let us know if you're a
100%.
wine connoisseur. We want to know what you like and what you're pairing with the cigars.
Yeah, because I bet you that wine connoisseurs will like different types of cigars versus people that just smoke cigars.
Exactly.
And you know what I'll commit to doing, if you guys want to do it, in between now and the next shooting of episode 3, I will really try to
Drink a lot of wine.
drink a lot of wine, do a lot of
try.
pairings, and
It's
just get
intimidating.
really creative and see what we
It's a
come up
lot.
with. We can talk about in the next episode.
Yeah, totally. 100%.
No, I think we covered it all. I think we learned that wines are not that intimidating, and you can absolutely pair them with cigars,
100%.
and it's a beautiful thing.
100%. Definitely worth checking out, especially for day drinking and stuff like that. So,
I think we're doing a lot of that now.
yeah.
So
Shout out, hashtag We Are Privada. Shout out to all the members. Shout out to all the Farm World members. Shout out to everyone in the YouTube space. We love all you guys, and we appreciate everything you're doing for the culture. And that's it. Episode 2. It's a wrap.